Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Mic Drop Show. This is the place where we talk real estate, real freedom, and real results. And I'm your host, Mike Morawski, the multifamily bounce back coach, investor, educator, and favored partner in cash flow when it comes to stacking doors and scaling wealth. Hey, and today's episode is going to be one for the book, so buckle up. We're going to talk about, are you somebody who's wondered, how do I actually build long-term real estate, a long-term real estate business, not just a streak of luck through fix and flips? Because I've got a guest on my show who actually lives that answer. So joining me today is Omar Ruiz, CEO and founder of LaRue Investments, a seasoned investor, educator, and one of the most respected voices in California real estate scene. You know what? Since 2007, Omar has led the acquisition, financing, and management over $16 million in both commercial and residential properties across 3 different markets in the U.S. He's got nearly 2 decades in the trenches as a multifamily investor, a property and asset manager, a deal operator, and due diligence expert. Who knows how to see real opportunity behind the number, but a guy like Omar. And if I wasn't enough, he also runs California's largest investor network, the Orange County Investment Club, with over 11,000 members. In this episode, Omar and I are going to break down how he identifies opportunistic markets across the country, the smart way to scale from single family to multifamily, what most newer investors get totally wrong about property management, why building an investor network is your hidden multiplier, and how to build a reputation as a trusted educator, mentor, and community leader. So if you've ever felt stuck trying to grow beyond a few deals a year, this episode's going to show you what you can really do to scale your business. Actually, what scalability actually looks like. So before we jump in, let's talk about buying back some of your time. Hey, a big shout out to today's sponsor, Sync VA. Whether you're raising capital, managing projects, or just drowning in follow-ups, Sync VA helps you get more done in less time without dropping the ball. If you need somebody on your team, a team member that is going to help you either from an executive assistant level or just a closing coordinator, call Sync VA today. All right, let's jump in. We're going to bring Omar in. We're going to get this thing rocking. Omar, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Mike. Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Man, there's a mouthful about you this morning. Holy cow. You know what? I've known you for a while now, and you've done some stuff, that's for sure.
Yeah, I sure have, and I was fortunate enough to kind of be in the right spot when the markets were turning, and I've always been a student of the market cycles, and it's just exciting when you can kind of see things happening in a certain market as they're changing, and when you're in it, those are the kind of things I love, seeing these market shifts and how they play out, in front of you.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what's interesting is I'm really seeing, and I'm kind of feeling it, that the market is shifting back the other way now. You've got a lot of things going on. We're going to talk a little bit about this tonight. You and I are doing a webinar tonight on a little bit on market cycles, things like that. I just want to shout that out right now to anybody listening. Hey, if you want to come to this webinar tonight, it's going to be at 6 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Pacific time. Reach out to either myself or Omar. We'll get you a link to that event tonight, but it's a totally free webinar. But one of the things that I'm seeing is this market shift right now. There's a lot of indicators, right? You got GDP that's up. You've got unemployment that's down. Inflation's at 2%. There's all these factors. And I'm seeing that investors are starting to have more conversations today about, hey, what's the next step? How do I get started next? What do I do next? And coming off the sidelines.
Right. It all comes down to, what that famous saying that Warren Buffett used to say. Be fearful when others are greedy, and
Mm.
greedy when others are fearful. And right now, there's a lot of um, I'm not sure if it's fear, but definitely uncertainty. Definitely, people feel like there's unbalance. And I'll tell you, I mean, I get a variety of deals coming across my desk. People looking for a white knight and somebody to help them out of their problems. And I haven't seen this amount of distress and people trying to get out of their difficult situations like this in a very, very long time. So this right now is kind of one of the most more exciting, interesting times in real estate that I've seen in probably since the Great Recession. Because just the and I could tell, like, for example, there's a deal that came across the desk that the guys were, they're in distress or trying to figure out what they're going to do. The offer that we pitched at them was not to their liking. They're still trying to refinance. So eventually, there's going to be a difficult decision that they can avoid, and that's playing itself out as we
Yeah,
as we
no
speak.
doubt. And you know what else is exciting is deals are penciling. You know, I coach a number
Yeah,
of people,
I agree.
and one of the things I teach is underwriting, and I teach people to underwrite. And we're monitoring about 40 submarkets around the country right now, and people are underwriting deals, and they're starting to pencil. I mean, as much as 200 basis points better than they were penciling, 3 months ago. So
Yeah.
it's getting exciting. I think we're right on the cusp. Hey,
Well, that's that, and that,
go ahead. Finish what you're going to say.
I was just gonna say, and that's where people have to start getting involved right now, because when you have a window of opportunity, that window of opportunity does not stay open for a long period of time. So, if there's deals in the works that are penciling out, and that you can see that the supply is dwindling down the line, that's going to give people it's right now is the time for opportunity. If you can take the opportunity right now, you got to take it, because in a year or two, you're going to be kicking yourself, and you're going to miss out on it.
Yeah, 100%. And hey, I've been in the business 30 years, and you've been in the business a couple decades. And you miss those market cycles when you're not paying attention. When the news starts talking about that the market's changed, you're too late. It's
Right.
over. And I couldn't encourage the private investor, the passive investor, as much as the active investor, to get going now, to jump back in now, whether it's coaching, whether it's investing, whether it's doing an acquisition. Now is the time, for sure.
Yeah.
Hey, you've invested in multiple states, and how do you evaluate whether a city has the economic fundamentals that make sense to invest in? I mentioned we monitor 40 submarkets around the country, but I know that you're in multiple markets as well. How do you evaluate the fundamentals in that market to support long-term growth, long-term rental gains, long-term occupancy?
Well, the big thing is, first and foremost, it's a variety of job growth stories happening in the market.
Mm,
Um, and you got to be careful. I'd say a variety of job growth stories, because you can get caught up on a single story.
yeah,
For example, there was a lot of talk here not too long ago that these automakers were building these electric battery factories. Okay, and now all of that stuff has grinded to a halt
yeah,
because the demand wasn't there, right? So yeah, you have to have a variety of job growth stories, not just one specific sector, but that job growth story is very important nowadays. You even have to go a little bit deeper, like I said, into what specific jobs, because all jobs have a job multiplier effect. So you have the direct jobs that are created, and then you have the indirect jobs that support those jobs. So if a factory is moving to a certain location, It's going to create those jobs, and then those jobs are going to have their subcontractors or their vendors and all that stuff that support those jobs.
Mm.
So that's one piece of the puzzle, and then you have to also have good local leadership. Good people, in the local municipality government that are doing the right things. Um, and I'll just give you a quick example that kind of highlights that. So, many years ago, we were in Indianapolis, Indiana. Um, so in Indianapolis, Indiana, it's not a market. It's not the big flashy markets like the LAs, the Dallases, and the Miamis and that kind of stuff. Um, but what it did many years ago is that Indianapolis was affected by the downturn in the auto industry, and so back when Mike Pence was the governor of the state, they changed that from a union state to a right to work state.
Mm.
And basically what that meant is that if you wanted to, um, if you were working at a job anywhere, you weren't compelled or forced to join the union. You can join the union, but now you decided. It wasn't something that was forced on you. So when that happened, that created a lot of jobs to come into the market in there. The one of the big tech companies that went out there was Salesforce. They got the big building there in downtown Indianapolis. Um, so that opened up the floodgates really for jobs. And I remember by the time we left that market, we moved on. Because the value spiked so much. But my God, I remember like driving in the car. And in the billboards, you'd hear radio ads. Hey, we're looking for workers, and they'd say, yeah, we're going to pay you, whatever, 17, $18 an hour to work at the warehouse. And then you'd see the billboards up. We're looking for workers. They announcing their pay per hour and all that stuff because they had so many jobs, but they didn't have enough people. And literally, I remember being in the office, on the weekends, I'd be manning the phones in there, on one of my
Yeah.
asset management trips. And there'd be people calling in from Detroit, from Ohio, from Chicago, from Kentucky, coming into Indianapolis to fill those jobs.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. We owned some assets in the Ohio Valley years ago, and
Yeah.
two employers, just those manufacturers that made little car parts, knobs for radios, dashboards, seats, and they sold them to the auto manufacturing industry. And then we had distribution. So there was DHL and UPS in those
Mhm.
markets. Boy, and when 2008 happened and that market crash, those industries got wiped out. So occupancy dropped. Today we're in markets where, just like you talked about, jobs, employers, right? Multiple, everything from aerodynamics, medical education, manufacturing, technology, just increases the power in that market. So you're spot on that. Hey, we're part of a couple of different Facebook groups, and one of the Facebook groups out there is a landlord group that we listen in on the channels on and listen. And there was somebody who posed a question on that group this week, not necessarily to us, but just in general. And they said, "Hey, what advice would you give someone who's managing their own properties, but they want to start to build a team and bring other people on, either as an employee or as a subcontractor, maybe a third party management company?" And I know you do a lot of third party management. So, what advice would you give somebody managing their own property? Um,
Yeah,
on
that's a great question. When as far as scaling your business and all that, um, I I would identify your weak spots. First identify the weak spots so you can now kind of target who you want to fill those gaps. And imagine, you need to imagine those role players and then those activities that those role players are going to perform. um, if you're looking for third party management, which is management is a huge part of the rental business and the apartment business and all that. So and interestingly enough, that's one of the reasons why, me and my partner, we started a property management business here in Southern California, because, we figured we know everything there is about the property management side of things. And, it doesn't matter if we're here or Indiana or Texas or wherever, as long as um, those people that our team players are performing our processes and procedures, then we reduce that management risk. But here's the thing, though. When you're delegating things, for a period of time, you do want to oversee that delegation, because this has kind of bit me in the butt in the past too, is that you delegate something and you're like, okay, great, I don't have to think about it. Well, you got to think about it in the beginning for a while. You got to make sure those people are doing the right things. And
Right.
then once they are doing those things correctly and consistently, okay, then you can ease up a bit and start looking at some key performance indicator things. But that's what I would say. Identify your weak spots. And make sure you have at least a list of activities that you expect those managers to do. Whether it's you know at, at the minimum, have your weekly or whatever meetings, some items that they need to let you know about, some key performance indicators, the activities you want them to do. In fact, what just kind of comes to mind, I remember with one management company. There's a company that we actually fired a long time ago. um, they were not, we do a make ready checklist.
Yep.
And when you have those checklists, they those are very helpful in identifying the details, because like to say the devil's in the details, right? And
Yeah.
so we would think that a unit was ready to turn, ready to rent up, and then one of us would go in there and do a showing, and lo and behold, there's a leak underneath the sink, and you're showing it to a prospect tenant, and you got egg on your face because there's water underneath. So that's what those checklists were for. And if you could do those kind of things, checklists, and um, but just really specifying and describing those activities that these people have to perform, so that then you can check up on those things. Those will help you be successful and scale faster.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. And hey, what's one of the biggest shifts that you have done, whether it's mindset or actual functionality in your investing strategy over the last 5 years?
Well, we've done quite a bit of adjusting in the last 5 years, mainly due to the things about inflation. On the underwriting side of things, I know we've been adjusting for inflation, especially in the payrolls. Payrolls have been going up, for the last several years. Also, expenses for repairs and maintenance. On like capital improvement side of things, there was a time during COVID actually where appliances were very difficult to get, and so we would have to order batches at a time, just to make sure that we had enough appliances there, because if you don't have your appliance, well, then you can't rent up your unit, right?
Right.
But also, especially, Mike, is consideration to insurance risk. That is something that we've had our pulse on since we first started seeing insurance costs creep up in about 2021.
Hmm.
2021 is when we noticed a creep on one of our properties there in Houston, Texas. And if you're familiar with Houston, Texas, it's got a reputation for hurricanes and flooding and all sorts of stuff. So you have to watch your FEMA flood maps, make sure you're out of that flood danger zone. Um, but the insurance risk is also something that, when it comes to looking at markets, um, because with the insurance thing, is that guys like us, that we look at that stuff, or we're minding that risk there and trying to overcome it. It's get There's been what they call shock losses in
Yeah.
the insurance industry, that they're expecting guys like us that don't put in claims to make up for all those losses now that they're enduring with other folks.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, you know, I like what you mentioned about the flood maps, right? Because, you know, you and I are working on a deal together, raising capital, and one of your early
Oh, that's right. Yes.
objections, I would call it, came up that, hey, you know what? This is on the flood map. We don't have an interest. And I said, it's not on the flood map. And, you know, I think that sometimes data is not always, you got to check, double check, triple check data, because we realized that we were not on the flood map, that it was an old map or old data that we had, but new data said we had gotten removed from the flood map. So, you know, there's a process around all of this, right? So I think, you know, it's real important to watch that stuff.
Yeah, yeah, that was great that you pointed. I actually learned something there from you because yeah, on the if just on the face of it, yeah, it came up in a flood zone, but then there was a document that made that map adjustment, and I said, oh, okay, well that's great that that they had that. So yeah, that was yeah, I do remember that. That was a good point out there.
Yeah, yeah. Well, listen, before we land this plane, last thing, coming up October 16th and 17th is my sixth annual multifamily summit,
That's
virtual
right.
event. It's 2 days, it's 20 speakers and panelists. Hey, you know, I'm honored to have you on this year.
Thank you.
What are some of the things you're going to talk about during your session on the summit?
Well, I'm definitely going to talk about more about my personal stories, and especially what what worked, and especially what doesn't work. I I I like hearing the stories from people, um, when they've had issues that they've overcome. It's a lot. People talk about their successes and their triumphs. I'm a guy that I like to avoid risk. So the only way to avoid risk, in my opinion, is to learn from the mistakes and stories from others.
Yeah.
So I'll be talking about my trials and tribulations, so that helps other people become better and more successful investors and scale their business.
Yeah, awesome. I am certainly looking forward to you being there and participating this year. It's going to be awesome. It'll be a great event. A lot of big names, a lot of people on this year. So looking forward to it. And if anybody needs to get registered for that or get a ticket for that, reach out to me and we will make sure that we get you the right link. Hey Omar, we got to land the plane this morning, man. And we ate up this time this morning, and you know, as we talked about, I have a couple asset management calls I need to attend to this morning. So,
Understood.
hey, listen, how do people get a hold of you? Tell them the best way to connect with you and with your meetup.
Well, yeah, my website, www.lerouxinvestments.com. LaRue is spelled Leru, followed by the word investments.com. That's my website. You can contact me through there on the contact page. You can also email me, Omar at LaRue Investments. Those are the best ways to connect with me.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, listen, thanks for being here this morning. I am going to land this plane. I'm going to put you in the back room and just say goodbye.
Okay, sounds good, Mike. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you. We'll talk soon. And actually, you know what? You and I are going to be on a little bit early before our webinar tonight. Just to remind everybody again, we're doing a webinar tonight. Don't miss this event. Reach out either myself or to Omar and get a link for tonight's event. And Omar, I'll see you. I'll see you in the waiting room tonight.
Sounds good. Looking forward to it.
Thanks. Have a great day.
All right, you too, Mike. Take
Bye
care.
bye.
Bye-bye.
Hey everybody, what a great show, huh? Again, boy, we burned this time up, that's for sure. It just goes fast, but that's a wrap for today's episode. You know what? Incredible interview with Omar Ruiz, investor, mentor, network builder, and the guy who's quietly helped dozens of others find financial freedom and their footing through real estate. Hey, if you took anything away from today, let it be this. Real estate isn't just about deals, it's about building a foundation, a process, and a business that works for you with or without you. And if you want more from Omar, we've got good news. He's going to be at the summit this year on October 16th. Our annual virtual multifamily summit happens October 16th and 17th live on Zoom. So get your tickets for that because it is filling up fast this year. Hey, if this episode gave you value, hit the like button, follow and subscribe to us. Share this with someone in your network who really is looking to scale and go bigger, who needs that little shot in the arm or that boost. You got questions for Omar or future guests, drop them in the comments, shoot me a DM. Your questions might just be one that's on the next episode of the Mic Drop Show. But until then, stay focused, stay committed, keep networking, and keep stacking those doors and deals until you get to where you want to go. Have a great week, everybody.